I'll never forget that smell. It wasn't perfume, it wasn't coffee, it was something in between fresh paint and plastic. It's the kind of smell you only notice when you know you're about to do something big, something that's going to change everything. I remember opening my eyes that morning and just lying there in the silence of my apartment, listening to the distant hum of Lagos traffic. I had this heavy mix of nerves and excitement pressing on my chest. My phone was already blinking with notifications, texts from people I hadn't spoken to in months, all suddenly curious about my big gig. What they didn't know was that even I didn't fully know what I was getting into. I rolled out of bed, walked to the mirror, and just stared at myself for a second. Not in that cocky, I'm ready to conquer the world kind of way. More like, bro, are you sure you can handle this? My reflection didn't answer, so I just laughed under my breath and started getting ready. The truth? I wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this city, not in this role, and definitely not standing on the edge of something so big it could either launch me into a new life or crush me completely. The gig came to me through a friend of a friend. You know how that goes. One casual conversation at a party turns into, "Hey, I might have something for you." I'd said yes before I even knew what the job actually was. By the time I found out, I was already too deep to back out. The job description was vague. Assist with tour logistics. Handle some special requests. Maintain discretion. Special requests? Discretion? Those are the kind of words that either mean boring admin work or you're about to see something you can never unsee. I didn't realize which one it was until I read the second page of the NDA. It was thick, the kind of NDA that makes you wonder if you're signing away your soul or your silence. And there it was, buried in legal language, the client's name. Not just any name. A name so big, so internationally magnetic that my stomach dropped the second I read it. Taylor Swift. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a diehard Swiftie. I mean, I knew her songs, the breakup rumors, the glitter dresses. But I didn't know her world. Not until that contract landed in my lap. And that's where the real story begins. Because when you hear Taylor Swift tour, you think of stadium lights, perfect hair flips, screaming fans holding up signs with her lyrics. But what you don't think about are the things you never see on stage. The little adjustments, the strange demands, the whispers in the corridors. The human side of a machine that runs on perfection. And somehow that human side, with all its messy, unfiltered details, was now my job. The day I met the rest of the crew, the energy was different. Tour buses lined up, each one looking like it had been designed for royalty. Everyone moved fast, talking into headsets, carrying clipboards, pushing equipment cases that cost more than my rent. I kept my head down, trying to look like I belonged. That's when I saw it for the first time. At the far end of the lot, tucked behind the stage scaffolding, were two mobile units. Not the basic festival kind, these were sleek, black, and clearly custom-built. No logos, no markings. Just sitting there, quiet, almost guarded. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured maybe they were storage units or portable dressing rooms. But then I saw the security detail around them. Not just a lock, people. Two men in black suits, standing on either side like the doors were guarding something more important than gold. I didn't know then, but those units would become the center of one of the strangest, most unexpected parts of this tour. By noon, I was already thrown into chaos. Schedules changing every minute, equipment delays, a costume emergency that had half the team panicking. And through it all, Taylor moved like clockwork, calm, precise, always where she needed to be, even when everything else was falling apart. It was almost intimidating. But then, I saw something that cracked that perfect image just a little. We were in a holding area backstage minutes before soundcheck. Taylor was talking to her stylist, nodding along, smiling, and then she leaned in, whispered something, and the stylist's face changed. She gave a quick nod, handed her headset to an assistant, and disappeared in the direction of those black mobile units. 10 minutes later, Taylor followed. I know, people take bathroom breaks. Big deal, right? But the way it happened, the secrecy, the deeter, the fact that there were perfectly good restrooms inside the stadium, it just didn't make sense. That was the first time I wondered, why the mobile units? I didn't get my answer that day. Not the full one. But over the next few weeks, the pieces would start coming together. And let me tell you, once I knew, I couldn't unknow. That's the thing about being close to the engine of something huge. You start seeing the screws, the oil leaks, the little hacks that keep the machine running. And sometimes those hacks are stranger than fiction. Back in my hotel room that night, I opened my laptop to review the next day's schedule. But instead of focusing, I found myself staring at a photo I'd accidentally taken earlier. In it, Taylor's walking away from the camera, heading toward those black mobile units. And just behind her, one of the guards is looking straight at me. Not angry, just watchful. I didn't know it yet, but I had just stepped into the beginning of a story I was never supposed to tell. You know, while we're on the topic of tour life, there's something most people don't think about, but it's huge. I'm talking about mobile toilets. Yeah, I know, not the most glamorous thing. But listen, those portable little boxes? They're a goldmine. I've seen people, regular folks, make thousands of dollars every single month running them for events, festivals, and yes, even major concerts. And here's the kicker. I actually wrote it all down. Step by step. The same blueprint that works anywhere in the world, no fluff, just the exact system. If you're curious, and you should be, grab my guide, How to Start a Mobile Toilet Business and Earn Big. It's in the description below. Trust me, it might be the most profitable, least talked about business you'll ever hear of. I thought the screaming crowds, flashing cameras, and sold-out arenas would be the loudest part of my life. I was wrong. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can be louder than the sound of a creaking mobile toilet door slamming shut while you're inside, praying no one hears you, or worse, smells you. It was 2 hours before showtime. My body was still vibrating from soundcheck. The bass from the stage thumped through the floor into my bones. I could feel the heat from the lights even though I wasn't under them yet. My hair was half curled, my lipstick only on one side. Glam was still working on me, but I couldn't sit still anymore. It was that moment, the one every performer dreads, when your stomach suddenly becomes too honest. I froze mid-sentence while talking to Mel, my stage manager, and whispered, "Mel, bathroom. Now." She didn't even blink. Just pointed to the corner of the backstage lot where 3 identical blue and white mobile toilets stood like suspicious little houses. "Seriously?" I whispered. "Here? It's either that or you risk the arena bathroom. And trust me, if a fan spots you there, you'll be in selfies for the next 30 minutes. And you don't have 30 minutes." The choice was clear. I walked toward the mobile toilets like I was approaching a wild animal. Every step I kept telling myself, "You're Taylor Swift. You've survived award show politics. You've survived bad breakups. You can survive this." The first one smelled like it had hosted a chili festival. Hard pass. The second one was occupied by my own guitarist who yelled, "Don't open it," before I even touched the handle. The third one looked almost innocent. A tiny little sink, a faint chemical smell, a roll of toilet paper hanging on for dear life. This was my sanctuary now. I shut the door and sat there, listening to the muffled roar of fans outside the arena. It was almost poetic. Here I was, the so-called queen of pop stages, hiding in a plastic box on wheels. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "You got this tonight. Love you." I smiled even as my nose crinkled from the smell of those blue chemicals. But then, I heard it. Voices. Not just any voices. Fans. Somehow, through the cracks of the loading bay, 2 girls had found their way near the mobile toilets. They were whispering like they were about to open a treasure chest. "Do you think she's in there?" one of them said. My eyes widened. "Oh no. No, no, no." I froze, like somehow not moving would make me invisible. "I heard she doesn't use these things. She probably has a fancy one on her bus," the other whispered. My pride wanted to yell, "Correct." But reality kept me glued to the seat. One of them giggled. "What if she is in there? That would be so funny." I could feel the blush creeping up my neck. I'm Taylor Swift, and I'm hiding in a mobile toilet while 2 strangers debate whether I poop like a regular person. This is fame. I waited. And waited. My legs started to cramp. Finally, I heard their footsteps fade away. I exhaled like I'd just escaped a hostage situation. When I came out, Mel was standing there with her arms crossed, smirking. "Feel better?" I shot her a look. "You didn't tell me the fans could get back here." "I didn't think they could." I groaned. But deep down, I knew this was a story that would live forever in my tour memories. Maybe not the glamorous kind, but the real kind. The kind that keeps you human when the world tries to turn you into a myth. We walked back toward the dressing room. Makeup was waiting. The curling iron hissed. The clock ticked closer to showtime. But somewhere in the back of my mind, the thought lingered. If I couldn't escape the mobile toilet today, what else on this tour would trap me in ways I didn't expect? I didn't know it yet, But this was only the beginning of a series of strange little tests, each one stranger than the last, that would make this tour unlike any other. And that's the thing about being on the road. The shows are predictable. The life isn't. The moment my boots touched the stage floor, the rest of the world dimmed into shadow. Not just the arena, it felt like reality itself got pushed to the edges. The lights were hot, almost burning against my skin, and the crowd's roar wasn't just sound anymore. It was physical, pressing against my chest, vibrating through my bones. My mic felt weightless in my hand, even though my palms were sweating enough to make me grip it tighter. I could feel the old familiar rhythm, like slipping into a second skin. But tonight was different. My body was still battling the chaos of earlier, that desperate sprint to the portable toilets, the way my team tried to hide the truth from the press. And yet here I was, smiling into a microphone, pretending the only thing on my mind was the opening note. "Portland," I said into the mic, voice ringing across the stadium. "Are you ready?" The answer was an explosion. Cheers, screams, and the high-pitched cries of people who had camped outside for days just to get in. They didn't know. They couldn't know. The opening chords blasted from the speakers, and I let muscle memory take over. Each lyric rolled off my tongue like it had been carved into me. I twirled, I laughed into the mic, I let my hair catch the light in the perfect way, like I hadn't spent the last 48 hours trying to keep my body from betraying me. But the thing about the spotlight is, it has no mercy. Under those lights, you can hide a tremor in your voice. You can fake a smile. But you can't stop the heat from building, or your legs from shaking, or your heartbeat from thundering too loud in your ears. Halfway through the third song I felt it. That low, unmistakable churn deep in my stomach. A slow burn of panic crawled up my spine. I was still singing, still dancing, but inside my head there was a countdown. I was doing the math. 3 minutes left in the song, 40 seconds to get to the wings, maybe 20 if I sprinted. The next costume change was 5 songs away. Too far. The only thing worse than your body betraying you in private is your body betraying you in front of 50,000 people holding up their phones. I caught the eye of Jake, my stage manager, at the far end of the wings. He knew. One glance and he could read me like a lyric sheet. He tapped his headset, murmuring into it, and like clockwork, 2 dancers subtly shifted to block me from certain angles, their choreography looping into an extra spin, an extra beat. I forced my smile wider, my voice brighter. The crowd didn't notice a thing. But in my mind, I could hear my publicist's warning from earlier in the day. No photos of the toilets, no backstage leaks. The brand cannot take another hit. You're a showgirl. Showgirls don't crack. It was meant to be reassuring. Instead, it sounded like a dare. The song ended and the crowd roared again, louder than before. I stepped back to catch my breath, chest heaving, sweat trickling down my back. Jake motioned me toward the far side of the stage. The band launched into the opening bars of the next number, a slower one, thank God. I made my way toward the edge, smiling at fans in the front row. A girl with glitter smeared across her cheeks reached out, clutching a handmade sign that read, "You saved my life." I touched her hand for a second longer than planned. Because in that moment, even with the chaos brewing in my body, even with the unspoken truth of the night threatening to break through the glitter and the lights, I remembered why I was still here. Not for the press. Not for the brand. Not even for the money. For them. The ones who had been in their own chaos, their own darkness, and somehow found light in the music I gave them. But the lights were still hot, and the churn in my stomach was getting harder to ignore. I took a deep breath, turned toward Jake again, and made the smallest motion with my hand, an agreed-upon signal. He disappeared backstage. By the end of the next verse, I'd be gone, and the crowd wouldn't even notice. Or at least, that was the plan. By the time we reached Chicago, my body had surrendered to the rhythm of the tour, not in a peaceful Zen-like way, but in the sense that I had stopped resisting the chaos. My day was no longer my own. I moved when they told me to move, sang when they told me to sing, smiled when the cameras demanded it. Everything else, eating, sleeping, even thinking, had to wedge itself into the leftover scraps of time. And yet, there was a secret growing inside me, like a spark hidden under the ashes. I had started recording. Quietly, almost recklessly, in moments no one expected. It began after one of our late-night shows in Philadelphia. The adrenaline hadn't worn off, and my voice still carried that raw edge only a live performance could give. Instead of going straight to bed, I locked myself inside one of the portable toilets the crew had just cleaned, balancing my phone on the sink shelf, and whispered into my handheld recorder. It wasn't a polished track, more like a confession set to melody. The walls were so thin I could hear the hum of the generators outside, but somehow that background noise felt like part of the song. It was addictive and dangerous. You see, the label had a very clear plan. No side projects until the tour ended. Everything had to feed the machine, the stage, the merchandise, the interviews. But I knew how quickly inspiration could vanish if I let it sit too long. The songs were coming to me in fragments, half a verse while fixing my hair, a chorus while hiding from the crowd in a bathroom stall. I had to catch them before they slipped away. In Chicago, I pushed my luck further. The stadium that night felt like an ocean made of light and sound. The crowd's roar hit me in waves and the bass rattled through my bones. When the final encore ended and the pyrotechnics faded, I left the stage grinning, sweat dripping down my spine. Everyone thought I was heading to my dressing room. Instead, I ducked down the service corridor, following the smell of bleach until I found a row of mobile toilets. The security guard posted nearby didn't even question me. I guess a sweaty, slightly wild-eyed singer running toward a bathroom isn't suspicious on tour. Inside, I set up my little ritual. Phone on shelf. Recorder in hand. Deep breath. The song came out in one rush as if it had been waiting for the door to shut. The lyrics weren't about the tour or the stage. They were about the in-between moments, the invisible space where the world thinks you're glamorous, but you're really just a human in a cramped stall, chasing a dream no one asked you to chase. And then, a knock. Taylor? We need you back in wardrobe. It was Jenna, my tour manager. Her voice was too close. She had heard something. Panic jolted through me. I shoved the recorder into my jacket pocket and flushed the toilet for realism. Be right there. I called, forcing my tone into casual boredom. When I stepped out, Jenna gave me the kind of look you give a friend who's clearly hiding something. But she didn't press. Maybe she thought I was just having, well, a normal human moment. The irony was she wasn't wrong, it was human. Just not the kind she could put in a tour report. From that night on, I became bolder. In Detroit, I recorded in the corner of the crew tent while everyone was busy unloading gear. In Minneapolis, I sat in a darkened bus bathroom for 45 minutes, layering harmonies into my phone before soundcheck. Every time, I told myself I'd stop before someone caught on. Every time, I broke that promise. And yet, there was a thrill to it, a private rebellion in the middle of an over-controlled life. The stage was where I gave the world what it expected. The bathroom, the tent, the stolen minutes before call time, that was where I gave myself what I needed. It couldn't last. I knew it. But the songs kept coming. By the time we hit Denver, I had 9 rough tracks saved in a folder labeled simply Laundry. Because if anyone scrolled through my files and saw laundry, they'd assume it was just photos of my stage outfits or fabric samples. Not the skeleton of an entire secret album. One night, lying on the bunk of the tour bus, earbuds in, I listened to all 9 back to back. The recordings were raw, imperfect, sometimes muffled by background noise, the rumble of a generator, the creak of a door hinge, the faint chatter of crew outside. But to me they felt alive, untamed, real. I didn't know it yet, but I was building something that could either ruin me or save me. And maybe both. It's strange how a stadium full of screaming people can feel like the loneliest place in the world when you're standing in the dark, waiting for your cue. The last echoes of the opening act's final song faded, replaced by the low rumble of the crowd's anticipation. My in-ear monitors crackled as the stage manager's voice buzzed. 30 seconds. I could smell the stage before I saw it, hot lights, faint sweat, that electric tang of metal scaffolding. And beneath it all, the lingering whiff of bleach from the mobile toilets lined up behind the stage, as if someone had tried to wash away the human chaos of the night before. I clutched the microphone like it was the only thing keeping me tethered. The first night of this tour, I'd been a mess. Nerves, stomach flipping, sprinting off stage mid-song to that little blue cabin under the floodlight. Now, I'd learned to time things better. Or at least hide it better. The countdown in my ear was almost comforting now. 10 seconds. The crew called it the heartbeat moment. Your chest tightens, the blood rushes, and you either run or you roar. Tonight, I wanted to roar. The curtain burst upward, blinding white light hitting my eyes, and the stadium's scream hit me like a tidal wave. My body moved before my brain caught up. First step forward, smile locked in, mic up. The thing is, the first song of the set is My Armor. It's big, it's loud, it's so full of choreo that nobody notices if my hands shake. I belt out the first chorus and my mind is on autopilot. Until I saw him. Second row, dead center. The journalist. The same one who'd been at the last show, phone out, recording, not the music but me. He had that look, the one that says, I know something you don't want me to know. I nearly missed my cue. My body snapped back into rhythm, but my heart was hammering for a different reason now. For 3 songs, I danced, sang, and smiled like nothing was wrong. But inside, I was thinking about the note that had been slid under my dressing room door yesterday. The truth always leaks. By the 4th song, the weight of it all was pressing down again. Tour schedules, the strain on my voice, the quiet panic every time my stomach twisted during a performance. And that reporter watching. Waiting. Halfway through the set, I hit the bridge of a ballad and the spotlight narrowed just to me. The crowd melted into darkness. My voice rang out into the void, raw and unguarded, and for a few seconds, it felt like I was singing to no one but myself. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement at stage left, a shadow slipping through the blackout curtains. One of the crew signaling something urgent. My gut clenched. Not now. Not in the middle of this song. Still, the signal was clear. Something backstage needed me. Badly. I pushed through the last notes, the audience cheering as the lights went down, and practically jogged toward the wings. What is it? I hissed. The stagehand's face was pale. It's your trailer. Someone broke in. My stomach dropped. My trailer, the one where I kept everything. Not just costumes and makeup, but my journal. My private one. The one where I'd written everything.